I'm unarmed. Do something. Go ahead, do something. Do something. Do something.
Robert De Niro is a hired gun on a mission with other mercenaries he doesn't trust in Ronin, one of 5 new movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. Our first film is Ronin, a Japanese word referring to samurai warriors who have lost their lord and are now obliged to seek out work as hired hands. We'll sword fight for food, I guess. And this legend is applied to the world of global terrorism in Ronin, which features an international cast of contemporary warriors, including an American, Robert De Niro, who identifies himself as a former CIA agent. While shopping for munitions, he questions the judgment of one of his teammates, a British field expert played by Sean Bean. Representing France, Jean Reno.
You know, you think so hard.
Nobody ever told me that before. But I wouldn't go in there.
What is it, son?
I don't like it.
Heading the mission, an Irish beauty played by Natasha McElhone. The assignment, to steal a mysterious suitcase filled with, well, we're not sure, and neither are the crew, which makes De Niro's character quite uneasy.
What's in the case?
That information isn't necessary.
Is it heavy? Is it explosive? Is it chained to some unlucky bloke's wrist? We're going to have to chop it off?
All right.
What is it?
But I'm not under any obligation to let you know.
If you are not, then the price has got to go up. I'll get you the case, but the price has got to go up. If it's going to be amateur night, I want $100,000. I want it up front. I want it in a bank account. I want another $100,000 when you get the case.
McElhone's boss in the film is a terrorist played by Jonathan Pryce.
Russians are trying to bid for the case. Case is in Nice. They're trying to sell it to the Russians.
Of course, there are chase scenes as the team of mercenaries races after the mystery case here on the streets of Old Nice.
Okay, you're in front of him. You can cut him off at the end of the porch.
Roger that. I got it.
That's Stellan Skarsgård as an Eastern Bloc computer whiz. He's a treacherous sort, double-crossing the team and stealing the case for the Russians.
Show me the case first.
You're great in the locker room, pal. And your reflexes might die hard, but you're weak when you put your spikes on.
Gregor, are you all right?
Gregor's fine. But I think you're in a wee spot of trouble.
And that leads to what else? More chase scenes. Now, though the action is familiar, it is director John Frankenheimer who displays his old form in leaving us enough time amid the action to enjoy the characters' maneuvering and the overall trickery of this story. This adventure works not only because of the strong cast. I like Ronin.
I liked it too, and I think that Frankenheimer here gets a really good look for these locations. This kind of the Riviera and Paris in a kind of an off-season. I really like the feel of the film, and I also like the fact that the briefcase is never explained. You know what I think was in the briefcase? I think the briefcase contains the briefcase from Pulp Fiction, obviously. Because this is a perfect MacGuffin, as Hitchcock defines it. It doesn't matter what's in the briefcase. It only matters that everybody wants it.
And again, we have typically in action pictures, international action pictures, they're like on a escalator, you know, going by us. This time, Frankenheimer takes time with each character, and we can really enjoy them.
Yeah, well, of course, we're left with our old observation about so many of these films. In real life, it probably would have made the papers that dozens are dead, and highways are in flames, and cities have been blowing up all over France for a week on end. But, of course, in a thriller, they just keep moving on to the
next the Herald Tribune would have got onto the story.
Probably would have. Okay, next movie, and our next movie is Pecker, a comedy by John Waters, about a kid from Baltimore whose candid snapshots become the rage of the New York art world. This seems like a setup for a satire of art dealers and critics, but the film is actually more interested in Pecker's strange friends and family back in Baltimore. Pecker, whose nickname comes because he used to peck at his food when he was a kid, is played by Edward Furlong, and his girlfriend Shelley is played here by Christina Ricci.
You can't work every second of your life, you know.
Okay, but I don't have all day for your stupid art.
Pecker puts on an exhibit in the sandwich shop where he works and is accidentally discovered by a hotshot New York art dealer played by Lily Taylor.
I'm in town for a meeting with the Baltimore Museum, and I saw your flyer. Your pictures are amazing. They're the real thing.
Wow, thanks. This is my girlfriend, Shelley.
Art show.
I love your look.
Pecker becomes famous, which disconcerts his family, including his mom, Mary Kay Place, who runs a thrift shop, his sister, Martha Plimpton, who tends bar at a male strip club, and his grandmother, who has a statue of the Virgin Mary that seems capable of miraculous speech.
I was on MTV. What? Oh, I was talking to Larry the Lughead on the phone, and he saw Pecker's picture of me right on MTV. Oh, Mary, I'm a model.
Pecker is an example of the kinder, gentler John Waters, maybe too kind and too gentle. The movie doesn't have much of a bite to it and wants to just stand there and be amused by its colorful characters. I had a little trouble accepting Furlong as the ace photographer, too. He seemed too dreamy, while Christina Ricci spent the movie trying to dial down her own energy and maybe just switching those two characters, having each actor play the other character. She could be the photographer, he could be the boyfriend. That might have upped the energy a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't care for the film either. I take it your thumb is done.
Right.
Yeah. John Waters used to be the shock master. Movies have passed him by. I mean, there's something about Mary at some level. But there is nothing particularly shocking here, outrageous. He is just knocking everything. Anything that is in contemporary culture that is in front of his camera is knocking.
I don't think we can require Waters to be shocking all the time. I think that he's moved on into more middle-of-the-road comedies, and I think that's okay. I don't want him to shock if he doesn't want to, but it just seems to me like this movie isn't very funny. It isn't very tightly wound up.
I was just going to say, he does want to make us laugh, and that he did not. There were no laughs for me in this picture. Same for you?
Well, there are some laughs, especially, I think, involving the grandmother and her statue, which I thought was pretty funny.
It's repeated too often, and as for the art scene, boy, is that tired material.
Yeah, that's just what I thought, too. Coming up later, a serial killer stalks a college campus in the thriller Urban Legend. And coming up next, Vince Vaughn and Joaquin Phoenix are mixed up in murder in Clay Pigeons.
You set me up.
Clay, light a match or something, will you? That's not decent in a boat like that. Well, B, man overboard. Oh, my God.
That's Joaquin Phoenix as Clay, a small-town Montana man who goes fishing with a new buddy named Lester, played by Vince Vaughn, in Clay Pigeons. And, of course, they discover that body together. And it is not the first body to turn up in that town. And the strange thing is, all of the victims seem to have an obvious connection to Joaquin Phoenix. Brought in to investigate the case is Janine Garofalo as an FBI agent whose style is to get directly to the point, very directly.
You were the last person to be seen with her.
I'm not answering any more questions.
You got to admit it's a big coincidence.
What?
You're sleeping with one victim, you're dating another, and you actually found a third.
And that's Scott Wilson as the local sheriff. Georgina Kate stars as Amanda, the wife of Clay's best friend, although there's more to the story than that because Clay was having an affair with Amanda, and the best friend wound up dead, and now Amanda has moved on to another man. Guess who?
I got company, Campbell.
Hey, Clay, how are you, man? Good to see you.
Lester?
You know each other?
Yeah, me and Clay are fishing buddies.
I thought you were in Billings.
Oh, I was in Billings, but just dumped my load up and decided to come back
Yeah, well,
here.
I hate to break this up, but Clay was just...
Easy there, Vixen.
That Lester returns up everywhere. The evidence mounts up against Clay, while Lester the cowboy hangs around exercising his peculiar ideas of charm.
You know what? No offense, but this suit is saved.
Who for?
First guy not wearing denim.
Clay Pigeons is based on one repeating plot event, which is the bodies keep piling up and suspicion keeps pointing to Clay. Now, up to a point, this works, but eventually we move beyond the realm of Clay's bad luck and into the realm of the preposterous. The movie would have been better if it hadn't gone around the track those extra 2 or 3 laps. Janine Garofalo is sharp and funny as the FBI agent in a role that was probably inspired by Chief Marge Gunderson in Fargo. But the plot gets so dragged out that by the end it has no interest except as a screenplay exercise.
Well, I liked it, Roger. I think it's because of the character of Lester. I think that's an original character. I would follow him anywhere, and you're right, we are...
You'd get in a lot of trouble if you did.
I know. Yeah. But no, I thought that's a really good character, and it made me smile as I'm trying to guess what's going on in the picture. I like that.
Well, Vince Vaughn has been in a lot of movies lately. It seems like he came out of left field about a year ago, and he's now working a lot in different kinds of roles. And I liked his character here. I must admit that I did. It's the plot that keeps on belaboring this notion that another body has turned up, and Clay looks even more guilty. But I liked him, and I liked Janine Garofalo, too.
Always. She's always good. Wonderful comic presence. This is her second movie in 2 weeks that we reviewed on the show. She was also good in Permanent Midnight. Check out Janine Garofalo. When we come back, there's a mad slasher on campus in Urban Legend.
Natalie. Yeah, right. Then come on and let's do this. Come on. Time to raise the dad. I can't believe this.
Alicia Witt and Rebecca Gayheart play students who tempt fate in Urban Legend, the slasher movie that takes place on the 25th anniversary of a hushed-up campus massacre. Now the killing has started again, and the killer seems to be deliberately reenacting the plots of famous, creepy urban legends.
Guy and a girl parked out in the woods making out.
You made out with him?
Guy steps out of the car, and the girl starts to hear these scratching noises on the roof. It's her dead boyfriend hung from a tree. Damon's in the class. He knew the myth, all right? He must have just planned the whole thing out.
Wait a second. Isn't there another story about a guy with an axe hiding in a woman's back seat?
That's Michael Rosenbaum and Tara Reid displaying their knowledge of urban lore there. Of course, there's always a campus dean around who wants to downplay the violence for public relations reasons. Here, John Neville poo-poos the fears of security guard Loretta Devine.
Well, after that suicide and what happened to the Mancini girl, now I'm having trouble locating another student, a boy named Damon Brooks. He's been missing for some days now.
Missing? He's not missing. It's the weekend.
Some of the urban legends are played for laughs, as in this classroom scene.
Thirsty? What's wrong? Something you might have heard about mixing Pop Rocks and soda?
Well, supposedly, your stomach and your intestines, everything burst.
Really? Anyone you know died this way?
Mikey, from the cereal commercial. Give it to Mikey, he'll eat anything.
Oh.
And that's kind of an inside casting joke there with Robert Englund, who plays Freddy in the Nightmare on Elm Street pictures, playing the professor. Slasher movies certainly look better than they used to. They used to scrape the bottom of the B-movie barrel, but now they have much more skillful casts and technical credits, but the formula is still the same. 2 false alarms for every shock moment. Of course, there's a big, loud musical chord, whoom, on the soundtrack every time a character is threatened, and after a while you start wondering why, don't you, Gene? With a mad slasher on the loose, the characters are always creeping up on each other and then being surprised when their friends are terrified. The movie is competently made, but nothing special, not at the level of Scream, which I guess is the current benchmark.
It's not at that level, and it is, and people should know, very bloody, including one of my least favorite things, the cutting of a body to remove a kidney, potentially. I don't like all that blood. You have to know, this is real bloody.
It's amazing. I just came back from the Toronto Film Festival where I saw some movies that were so extreme that I actually wrote in my newspaper review of this movie that the gore wasn't that far out.
Okay.
And it isn't. It's amazing. And these days, you know what's funny? The real violence is in the comedies.
Well,
it's amazing.
I saw it last night, and it was bloody, and I didn't like it. And I hate to see the return of the slasher movie just because of the thing that we talked about 20 years ago when we first identified it, the point of view often of the stalking of young women.
Yeah, but of course it's not that way anymore because now we don't see the stalker, and of course in this movie,
well, I
it's
won't
not
get
exactly
into that.
But I like that scene where it says, well, now I can't remember my anatomy class. Is it the liver or the kidney on this side? I think I'll just remove the first organ I find.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Yeah. Call me sick.
Okay, anatomy class is over. Next movie. And our next movie is Shadrach, the film adaptation of William Styron's short story, which is both a boyhood reminiscence and, to my mind, an epilogue to slavery. The year is 1935 in a small town in Virginia, and a 10-year-old boy recalls his own middle-class life, but also the time he spent with a neighbor family, the once aristocratic Dabneys, who had fallen on hard times. An invitation to stay at the Dabneys is as exciting as a European vacation to 10-year-old Paul Whitehurst. The Dabney parents are played by Harvey Keitel and Andy McDowell.
I'd love to have him. Oh, no, I couldn't impose.
Please, Mother.
The centerpiece of the story is the arrival of a 99-year-old former slave named Shadrach, who appears one day in the Dabneys' backyard.
What's he want?
I think he said he wants to die on Dabney ground.
Eventually, reality pops up in the form of the local sheriff.
It's against the law to bury anybody on private property.
Why is it against the law?
I don't know why, Bert. It just is, that's all.
Down in that field, Tazwell, people have been buried for near about 200 years. I've got an old senile man on my hands. He was a slave, and he was born on this place. And I've got to bury him here. And
Now, our understanding of the meaning of this character is helped if you know the biblical story of the brothers, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who were Hebrews who refused to worship the local gods. As punishment, they were thrown into a fire, but were eventually saved by an angel. Well, like them, the character of Shadrach has survived his own fire and also wants to retain his identity. As for the movie Shadrach, it has modest goals, and I think it achieves them through a mosaic of time and place. Just as the slave rests by that tree, we can rest with Shadrach and are transported. A marginal thumbs up for me.
Yeah, it could have been a better movie. It is so laid back and so low energy.
Well, I don't know what energy you want from a 99-year-old slave. Who wants to be buried.
I would like the themes of the movie to be made more clear, because he believes that this land, Dabney land, is his land too, because as a slave he worked it, and that's why he wants to be buried there. Not to forgive his old masters, but to claim, in a way, a little bit of their turf as his own.
Exactly.
And I think that could have been articulated more instead of the kind of behavior of the family and all the business about the legalism of whether a body can be buried on private land or not. It just all seems to be like 3 arms removed from what it's really about.
I got it and enjoyed it at the pace that you're talking about.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. When we come back, our video pick of the week, a lush political romance set in 16th century Venice.
You must know pleasure to give pleasure.
Siskel and Ebert's Video Pick of the Week is brought to you by Nestle Raisinets. At the movies or at home, Raisinets.
My video pick this week is Dangerous Beauty, the story of a beautiful woman from a poor family in 16th century Venice who was guided by her mother into the life of a courtesan. The film stars Catherine McCormick as Veronica, a young woman in love with a nobleman named Marco, played by Rufus Sewell. He loves her too, but because of the needs of their families, they cannot marry.
You know we can't marry.
Then why are you here?
I must marry according to my station.
Shall they forever be apart? Not according to Veronica's enterprising mother, played by Jacqueline Bisset, who provides some realistic career advice.
There's an alternative to marriage. You'll become a courtesan.
In the movie's climax, Veronica plays a crucial role in the defense of the Venetian Republic. Everything depends on whether or not the French king will lend Venice his ships. And what the king does depends on Veronica. She has his number.
You yearn for my tears. I don't think so.
I've heard it said that an ordinary courtesan seduces men's bodies while a great one seduces their minds. Veronica Franco was an actual historical figure who greatly influenced the fortunes of Venice, and I imagine Dangerous Beauty fictionalizes most of her story, but it makes a fascinating story all the same, especially set against the backdrop of Venice itself, that loveliest of cities. Dangerous Beauty is in video stores right now, and it's my video pick of the week.
Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed on this week's show. 2 thumbs up for Ronin, starring Robert De Niro as a gun-for-hire pitted against international terrorists. 2 thumbs down for Pecker, the John Waters comedy that doesn't have enough of an edge. We split on Clay Pigeons, the backroads murder comedy. We both liked Vince Vaughn and Janine Garofalo, but Roger felt it was a needlessly prolonged story. 2 thumbs down for Urban Legend, yet another Scream wannabe. And finally, we split on Shadrach. I liked its evocation of a time and place long ago. Roger, however, felt it was too slight an effort.
Okay, remember you can hear our reviews on the web at Siskel-Ebert.com, and our website also lists the stations that carry our show. Next week, we'll be back with reviews of more new movies, including the supernatural love story, What Dreams May Come, starring Robin Williams, and also Ants, a new animated film featuring the voices of Woody Allen and Sharon Stone. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.